David, I don't think this is on in the house. It's not on in the house. The house is not on.
Testing, 1, 2.
Can y'all hear this? Oh, you can. Okay.
David.
All right. Shabbat Shalom.
I don't think that's high enough. Mine is fine.
A couple of program notes for the week. Next week, the Society for Humanistic Judaism will be here, and they will, through the Jews for Secular Democracy, will be interviewing Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the American Federation of Teachers. They're giving her an award. Unfortunately, I will not be with you. Rabbi Miriam Jairus will be, so you'll have a better rabbi, certainly more experienced and wiser rabbi than I. And I'm not going to not be with you through choice. I have something that needs to be taken care of. And yeah, so please come. The entire board of the North American Society will be here. There are a couple other programs coming up, and I turned off my phone, Audrey, but it's all in the newsletter. The Ukrainian dance troupe is coming up in May, and you have a number of other things. I don't know if you want to take 1 second to talk about it, or just refer them to the newsletter. Great. Right, and the details are in the newsletter. See, I didn't forget. I just turned off my phone. Sorry. And we're happy that Camp Casey is being represented tonight. I don't know why I said Casey. I know you're Molly. And we're excited to hear about it. And while there may not be many people physically present, we have YouTube. You'll be famous because we get good attendance on that. Our readers tonight are the birthday boy, Tom Fleischer. Tonight is all about the Fleischers. And Lonnie Fleischer will be reading. And Rabbi Miriam Jairus, as if she doesn't have enough to do, will be reading tonight. And Audrey Pleasant, as if she didn't have enough to do. And my dear friend Melanie Goldberg will be reading. And Joseph is here. And the Oneg will be sponsored in Guess Who's Honor tonight? The birthday boy by his loving family. His daughter Lori is here. Her husband Mike is coming shortly. That's what I meant. Her brother Michael will be coming shortly. I'm a little famished. I got some things going on, but we're going to get through this. At least I will. Okay. We're going to turn to the first. Oh, here it is, right there. So let's center ourselves into the Shabbat spirit. Stuff I never do. As the candles stand before us, ready to bring light, we take a moment to recall our ancestors. Like them on Shabbat, we seek to dispel the darkness and bring glowing softness, warmth, and safety into our homes, our communities, and our lives. May our Shabbat lights inspire us to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to praise and not to curse. May the dancing flames of our Shabbat candles spark warmth within our hearts, wisdom in our minds, and passion in our lives. And I'd like to invite Lori, the spirit of Michael, and Tom, and Lonnie to light our candles.
Baruch haor ba'olam, Baruch haor ba'adam, Baruch haor ba'shalom, ba'shalom, Baruch haor, Baruch haor,
Shabbat.
Hey, welcome to my birthday party. Oh, welcome. Oh, thank you guys. And I want to thank my daughter and my son. Stand up, Lori. All the way. Stand up, honey. All the way from Florida, sponsoring the ONEG for me. Quiet down, Tom. Thank you, honey. Our ancestors hallowed the Sabbath day. In dark times, it was a refuge for them, and in times of prosperity, it gave them rest and joy. As a community, we celebrate the opportunity to gather in that spirit, even as we imagine Shabbat anew. May we too find rest from the day's work and refuge from our cares. May we too feel the warmth of love and companionship. May we too feel our joys heightened and our sorrows softened by the love we give and receive. May we be blessed with Shabbat joy. May we be blessed with Shabbat peace. May we be blessed with Shabbat light.
Maya Ayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Ayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then goodness encompasses our lives, and we can begin to change the world, which needs changing.
Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ve'afta l'reacha kamocha. Ze klal gadol gadol b'Torah, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ve'afta l'reacha kamoka. Ze klal gadol gadol b'Torah, Amar Rabbi Akiva.
Shabbat Shalom. Happy birthday. We all need strength, humility, courage, patience. Strength to control our passions, humility to assess our own worth, courage to rise above defeats, patience with ourselves and others in the face of our limitations. and wisdom to learn and live by insightful teachings and our own experiences. Let us not be discouraged by our failings. Let us take heart from all that is good and noble in the human race. May it keep us from falling victim to cynicism. May we revel in sincerity and enthusiasm. May we gain perception and courage that we may serve others with compassion and with love.
Efori oribi, efo chikvati bi, efo kochi bi, vegambak, efo kochi bi, vegambak. Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me and in you, and in you.
We spend our days searching for meaning, for wisdom, for direction to guide us forward. We look to the world around us, to teachers, to history, and to the voices of our ancestors. We ask, how do we find the courage to face the future? We ask, how do we choose which path to take? We ask, how do we do these things while remaining true to ourselves? What we seek is closer than we think. The spark of understanding, the source of hope, the clarity to choose the right path. These live within us, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be embraced. Shabbat is a time to pause and gather our strength. It is a time to think about who we are and what we can make of our lives. On Shabbat, we take a moment to set aside the noise, the distractions, and the demands of the week. Shabbat invites us to return to ourselves and contemplate the questions that our lives are posing. As we enter this special time, let us accept the invitation to open our hearts, quiet our doubts, and remember this. The capacity for wisdom, for courage, and for discernment is already here inside us.
Niftach lanu sha'aret tzedek chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Niftach lanu sha'aret tzedek chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Ele sharim la shalom, niftach lanu v'navovam. Ele sharim la shalom, niftach lanu v'navovam. Niftach lanu sha'aret tzedek chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Niftach lanu sha'aret tzedek chen v'chesed v'rachamim. 'Rachamim.
Peace is more than the abundance of, Peace is more than the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice, compassion, and hope. It does not arrive on its own. It must be nurtured through the strength to stand firm in our convictions and the willingness to seek understanding. True peace begins within. It calls us to care for ourselves and our communities, to ensure that we are grounded and secure, but it cannot remain there. Peace reaches outward, finding life in the connections we build and the shared commitment to a world where dignity and fairness prevail. Peace is not passive. It grows from the small acts of courage and kindness that sustain us and the choices we make, even when the path is uncertain. It asks us to see the humanity in one another and to believe that even in difficult times we can shape a better future. Let us pursue the peace that we have the power to create in our homes, our communities, our nation, and the world.
Nase shalom ba'olam, nase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam ve'imru shalom. Nase shalom ba'olam, shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'akol, ve'akol ha'olam, ve'imru shalom, shalom. Nase shalom ba'olam, nase shalom aleinu, ve'akol ha'olam ve'imru shalom. Nase shalom ba'olam, shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'akol, ve'akol ha'olam ve'imru shalom, shalom.
In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, and those who have been wronged. Tonight, our well wishes are extended to these beloved members of our community, to Joe Barkley, Lee Bricker, Susan Lipson, and Jim Walker. If there's someone whom you're thinking about tonight, we can add them to that list. Yes, Lord.
Mayor Mettler.
Somebody on this side I saw? Anybody? May all who suffer know that they are not alone, that we are there. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery of refuah shlema, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits.
Makom ha'koach betochenu, mekorot ha'bracha mivrotenu. May the source of strength that dwells so deep within us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Shalom. Makom ha'koach betochenu, mekorot ha'bracha mivrotenu. May those in need of healing know refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Shalom.
Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. With our courage and our strength, we do not forget. Acts of kindness, deeds of courage will remain. Beauty created, wisdom shared is not lost. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. This week, we observed Yom HaShoah, and if you read my commentary, I know it's the first thing you do when you get the email there. I wrote a few years ago a version of the El Malei Rachamim, the prayer that is known for all kinds of funerals, but is recited in a special version for Yom HaShoah, and it translates to God who is full of mercy. It speaks of sheltering the dead under the divine wings and having them find a place of peace, rest in the Garden of Eden or paradise. This is the one I wrote from a humanistic perspective. I invite you to stand and recite it with me. Let us pray no more to the one who is full of mercy. There is no shelter for those whom we have lost under divine wings. Mercy is for the living. For those who were slaughtered, there is only memory. So let us preserve in Jewish memory the precious ember of those whom we've lost to the evil of Jew hatred. May it never depart the psyche of our people or of humanity. For there is no heavenly master of mercy on whom we can prevail to shelter the victims forever in peace. They are gone. They do not rest in peace or in paradise. From the conflagration that robbed them of the possibility of sweet and pleasant lives. May those lessons be bound up with us forever. May they remind us to become our own masters of mercy, and let us honor their memory with this sacred oath, Le'olam lo od, never again. Please be seated. I guess I could have had you seated for that, because now you're going to get up again for Kaddish, but you don't think about these things when you're sitting at your kitchen table putting together the service. I know it's a solemn moment, but you know, celebrating life is part of what we do. As our thoughts now turn to those who are no longer with us, we remember our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, whom we've just remembered and whose graves are in too many cases unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we do so, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall now our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and all those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. Tonight we observe the yard sites of these beloved members of our community and their dear ones, Sheldon Bobrow, Dorian Shalom, Gloria Burrow-Ellis, Ben Gaber, Rita Muroff, Ben Stowicki, and Andre Zador. Is there someone whom you're thinking about, whom you're missing tonight?
The 17 detainees who died in custody since the beginning of this year.
Anybody else? Yehi zichram livracha. May the memories of these people be a blessing to those who miss them, who find a path through life without them. If you can do so comfortably, once again, please rise. Together we recite our humanistic interpretation of Kaddish. Nitgadal v'nitkadash v'ruach ha'adam. Let us dignify and ennoble all people in the spirit of our shared humanity. Let us acclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us, each in our own way, take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind. May justice and peace permeate and comfort the house of Israel and all those who dwell on earth. And let us say, Ken Yehi, may it be so. Please be seated. The lights dim? Is that my imagination? They did? I don't know. It could be one of those things just happened to me. Oh, did we turn that off? Having one of those nights, folks. Sorry. But this is going to turn it around because I have the opportunity to introduce to you a new member of our congregation, Molly Reeser, who joined with her husband Nick and their 2 boys. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you and really so much fun to learn about what you do. She is the founder, apparently at the age of 16, of an executive director of Camp Casey, which is 22 years old now, which is why I made that comment. It can't be anything else. It is a nonprofit that provides cost-free horseback riding experiences to children who are facing cancer and other life-threatening illnesses. What a mitzvah. Under Molly's leadership, Camp Casey grew into a statewide organization. You serve 1,600 children and families. That's remarkable. And you oversee all aspects of this program. I know that you do all the fundraising, you create all the partnerships, you have staff as well who you have to pay, I assume, in order to be there, and a great deal, I can only imagine, of community engagement, which is, this is part of, but this is your community, so. I would be remiss if I didn't, and if you didn't have a chance to read this because it was in the newsletter, mention that she has been named to the Oakland County Executives Elite 40 Under 40, and has been featured on the Today Show of all things. In national publications, including the Huffington Post, and these I know you all subscribe to, Horse Illustrated and the Chronicle of the Horse. And I will be getting my subscriptions to that. Please join me in welcoming our friend, Molly Reeser.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. Happy birthday. And yeehaw! Thank you all so much for inviting me tonight. Thank you to Rabbi Jeff. It's been just such a pleasure to be a part of this temple. I feel very formal standing in front of a podium, so I might just stand over to the side of it. My family joined a little over a year ago when we realized that our oldest son is 12 years old and thought, oh no, we need to maybe start giving him more of a Jewish identity because we know we're Jewish and we just wanted to, got a little bit of a late start, but better late than never to start really educating our kids. So we've been participating in the Spinoza program. I'm a little embarrassed that we've not been very active on Friday nights, because maybe after today's beautiful service, we'll need to start coming on Friday evenings, because this has just been lovely, and everything that has been discussed really is such a defining characteristics of how the values that I have and my family has, and why we are wanting to be a part of this congregation. So I thank you all for welcoming me tonight to tell you what brought me to this journey. Can you hear me all right? Should I use this? Okay. I'm so loud normally that nobody needs a... Okay, all right. I'm such a loud person normally, so a microphone typically. Oh, okay. All right, well, hello. Howdy to everybody at home then. But I thought I would tell you a little bit about my journey that brought me here today on this stage, representing Camp Casey, and what I'm doing in the community, and how I so invite you to all be a part of it, because I know that everybody here would just love it as much as I do. Though I was not 16, I was not much older than 16 when I started Camp Casey, and it started completely by accident when I was about 19 years old, actually. I started going to school at Michigan State University. No Spartans here, no? Come on, go green. I see a Wolverine. It's all right, I won't hold it against you. But I went to Michigan State, and of course, I think the Wolverines affectionately call us Moo U, right? Because there's cows and horses and agriculture everywhere. And that was just right up my alley, because I always loved animals. I still do. Every animal, anything with 4 legs that's furry, I just think is the best thing ever. I love humans too, humanists, I do. But I love animals probably just as much, if not a little bit more. And so to earn some extra money while going to school, I answered an ad in the state newspaper for, they were looking for a person to come muck horse stalls, to be a stable hand. And I just thought, like, that is a dream job for me, because I thought, what a great way to make $8 an hour. And, I needed a little bit of extra spending money at school. And so I spent almost every day after my classes on this farm shoveling horse manure, and it was just the best ever because I got to be around horses and animals and my friends who all were crazy enough just like me to love horse manure enough because that meant there was a horse nearby. And it was there that I met a little girl named Casey. And Casey was only 10 years old when she started showing up, and we had a lot in common in terms of just about everything. We were both very loud and outspoken and sarcastic, and we both loved animals so much. So I mentored her a little bit and showed her around the farm, and I really introduced her to horses, which she just loves so much. But something that Casey and I did not have in common was that she was going through treatment for bone and brain cancer. Casey was only 10 years old, and she was diagnosed with 2 types of cancers, actually. It was very rare and absolutely horrendous what she had to go through, and this was a terminal diagnosis, and she knew this. She would spend any time she could at the barn with us because that really was where she received her own respite and her own therapy and where she could be outside of being in the hospital and actually be a kid. And I witnessed that. Everybody who was around the barn knew Casey because she made her presence known. Like I said, she was loud and funny and, you know, some would say maybe a little obnoxious, but I loved it because we were just kind of the troublemakers together. A memory I have of Casey is that she would rescue these little baby birds that would fall from the rafters of the riding arena, and she would bring them to me, of course, because I was the sucker who would take them home and try to nurse them to health. I don't think a single baby bird made it, but I tried really hard, and I lied to Casey, and I told her, oh yeah, Tweety's doing great, and I drove my roommates at school crazy because I was feeding them cat food, which is really stinky. But Casey just had a really big heart, and she loved animals, she loved horses, and I saw firsthand the therapy that she was receiving when she was around these horses. And I saw her parents come to the barn and see her as a normal child, able to interact with her friends and be around the animals and go riding and wasn't a sick child when she was there. She was just a child. And we just became very fast friends. She was friends with everybody at the farm, and about 1.5 years after she was coming regularly, she passed away. And it was, of course, just devastating. I mean, she was only 12 years old, and she was, you know, it was like something was missing. It was a deafening silence with her gone because it was this little girl that was such a spark plug of a personality was no longer there, and we understood why. And for me, as you know, at this point I was about 20 years old, I had never known a child that was sick, and I had never known a child who'd passed away before. So this was just a real moment for me to wake up and take myself out of the selfish place that I was in as a sophomore in college. I mean, you just have to think of kind of what my problems were at that point, you know, so minuscule compared to what she had gone through. So that really put things in perspective for me. And I knew that I wanted to do something to honor Casey's life. So, and actually it wasn't just me. All of the young women who worked with me, we were all saying we have to do something. It just feels like we can't go on as like normal without at least recognizing that Casey had made an impact on all of us. So different ideas got thrown about. I remember we were in the little observation room, and we were all talking about what we could do to honor Casey's life appropriately. And one of my friends said, well, you know, in the pasture, we can put a big tree and we'll put a plaque next to it, and it will say, you know, in memory of Casey. And then another friend said, well, there's a walk going on that's going to raise money for pediatric cancer, and maybe we should all chip in $100 and we could walk this 5K. And another friend said, oh, we should put a bench right by the front area where, you know, her mom would drop her off, and it can say in memory of Casey. And I just remember thinking like, oh, she would hate all of those ideas because Casey was not the kind of girl that would want to be represented by a park bench. I mean, she was just too full of spark to want to have a little plaque that said in memory of Casey. And while I thought walking for a cure was very important, I thought, well, there are kids right now who need that impact. And they, as much as as wonderful as it might be to raise funds for research, which is very important, this could take decades, a millennial for there to be an impact made. So I thought, instead of buying something or contributing money, we have a stable full of horses that are all kid-friendly horses. We have this perfect space. We have Michigan State down the street that has lots of people that might want to help. We have the Sparrow Pediatric Cancer Center where Casey received treatment. Why not gather some children and families and give them one day where they can enjoy horses the way that Casey used to? So I went to the owners of the barn, and I'm just, you can probably tell just from meeting me that I'm bossy, and I think you're supposed to say you're a leader now. That's like the PC term, but I was like that little girl that, talks too much kind of thing on my report card. But I went to the owners of the barn, and I said, hey, I'm going to take over this barn on June 19th, 2003. I remember, it was a Saturday. I said, we're going to take over this barn. You can't have any horseback riding lessons going on this day. You can't have anything else happening. I'm taking over the barn. And the owners, I guess, were like, well, I guess she's taking over the barn. So, and then I went to Sparrow Hospital with a friend of mine, and we made these flyers. And I don't know, now I think there's more security in hospitals, but we went right up to the cancer floor, and we started putting flyers around the pediatric cancer floor, and we started chit-chatting, of course, we started schmoozing with the nurses and telling them what we were going to do, and we called it Camp Casey. We said, we're having a day where any child who's receiving treatment here can come out with their siblings and their mom and dad and their grandparents if they want, and enjoy the farm. And on that day, we had over 80 people show up. And I remember I took the credit card my parents had given me for emergencies, and I ordered pizza, and I got crafts, and I got Jimmy John's, and I just thought, I'll explain this a little bit later, but I put all of the expenses for the day on my parents' credit card, and then we had this incredible day. It was just it was like a storybook perfect day. We had 80 people there, so siblings or parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, but we had about 20 children gathered. These are children who are going through treatment and their siblings. And we rotated them through different stations. We had the ride, because we only had 5 horses. We didn't have enough for each kid to have a horse. So we put them in different groups, and we rotated them through horseback riding and arts and crafts, and they made horse treats, and it was such a phenomenal day. And I remember thinking after that, the day had wiped us all out. We were on the couch later on that night. I thought, we did it. We appropriately honored Casey's life. This is exactly what she would have wanted. And then that was going to be it. Then I was going to continue on in my education, get my degree, go get a really awesome job where I'm making tons of money and living in some big city. I was, again, 20 years old, so I had pretty grandiose plans for myself. But I quickly U-turned when about a week later, I received a letter from a little boy that was in attendance who also he was only 5, and he was going through treatment for brain cancer, just like Casey had. The letter said, "Thank you for the best day of my life." And I just remember thinking oh, well, this is kind of a bummer, because now we got to do this again. This can't be a one and done sort of thing. That really made an impact for this little boy. And so I asked the owners of the barn, I said, listen, I know I told you I was just taking over this place for one day, but what if I did this monthly until I graduate? This didn't take that much. And I was not, I did graduate, but not with a very high GPA. I was not like the Miss, scholarly student. But I took so much of my energy and time focused on these Camp Casey days, and we ran them monthly. So we did it once a month. At this point, my parents told me I could not put money on their credit card, so I had to learn the skill of fundraising and hosting bake sales and car washes and can drives and asking and seeing who would be just wanting to shut me up and get me out of their Jimmy John's by saying, okay, how many sandwiches do you need? So we would get monthly donations for food, and we would get different barns locally to donate their space, and we ran Camp Casey. And then I felt so fulfilled. And then I graduated. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, well, now I have to go get a real job because now I have a degree. And but I just continue. I had that moment that I think a lot of you all have either had, or you have children who have had this or will be having, where, you know, you go like, what do I want out of life? What do I want to do with myself? And, you know, now after middle school, you go to high school, and then high school, you go to college, and now college was over, and I really didn't have a plan. I had that total, like, who moved my cheese moment where I thought, like, what it really makes me happy? And of course, my parents, you know, I have Jewish parents, and they were telling me to go to law school. I was going, I don't know that I took the LSAT. Scored very mediocrely on that. I didn't do very well at all. But I did not want that. Everybody around me knew that they were going to medical school or law school, or they were going to become a journalist or a social worker or a nurse or whatever it was. And I just remember thinking there was nothing that satisfied me the way that Camp Casey did. That, to me, was what my life's work should have been, and I knew it. I was, you know, I think I was 22 at this point, and I knew that is what I wanted to try to do. So I decided, okay, I can always go back to law school. I can always get a traditional job that has health insurance. But for now, I'm going to see if I can turn this into something. So I did the scariest thing that I've ever done in my whole life, and I asked my parents to meet me at P.F. Chang's in East Lansing, and I said, I just want to say I'm so grateful for my degree and that you really supported me through school, but I'm going to waitress for a little while, and I'm going to see if I can make this happen, if I can do this. And I remember my mom was like, and she always acts like this never happened when I bring it up, because I've told this story before, but I swear she just like, check please, you know. She was not happy with me because, you know, it's like, wait a minute, you're cut off. And I decided that for 1 year, I was going to hustle, and I would waitress or I would work odd jobs, and I did. At the time, I taught fitness lessons, and then I waitressed, and there was no Uber at the time or like DoorDash, but I would have been definitely DoorDash driving had that been an opportunity for me, because I was just doing whatever I could to pay my bills, which weren't much because I didn't have kids yet or a mortgage or anything like that. So I drove like a crummy car that was probably like, you know, and the gas was not nearly what it is now. So I did whatever I could, and I hustled and hustled. That 1 year turned into 6 years. But as this was happening, the organization was growing, and it was working, and people were coming out and wanting to support this work because it was making a difference. And we started, instead of just staying in East Lansing, we started going to barns regionally. So all throughout Michigan, they would lend us their space, and we would rent it, but it was a donation. There was no money exchange. They would donate their space for the day, and I would call the local pizza place and have the local pizza place donate the pizza, and we would have these Camp Casey days set. Well, a problem kept arising, and that was that we would have put so much work, and by we, I'm talking myself, my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband. He's put in his Camp Casey dues big time, and my best friends and my network of supporters. We would all make ourselves available to be here on this day. The barn would make itself open and available. They would not have their riding programs go on that day. The pizza places would donate everything. All of these resources were coming together. This community was coming together for these kids. And we would plan the day for about 20 children because that's how many we knew we could accommodate. And only like 11 or 12 would show up. And it wasn't because the other, 9 or 10 didn't want to be there. It was because they were sick and their treatment schedules were not aligning altogether. So by running these monthly programs, and sometimes we would try to do them twice a month to accommodate the children whose chemo schedule was a little bit different, it was just something was not working. So, and this kept happening. It was a theme, and it was a problem that we saw over and over again, that we would have this day planned. Children would show up, but some children couldn't be there because they were just too sick. And we've all now lived through a pandemic, so we understand what it's like to be among an immunocompromised population. That's the children that we served and are serving. So there was one particular Camp Casey day. It was taking place actually in East Lansing, but there was a Farmington Hills family that really wanted to go. In fact, I think they wanted to go to one more locally, but that one was the month before, and the little girl, Kelly, who was 5 years old at the time, was unable to be there because she was so sick. So they came to this August Camp Casey event, and it was a family from Farmington Hills, and the little girl was named Kelly. She's doing great, by the way. I should let you know. She and her sister actually volunteer with us now, and they're in their 20s. But she was 5 at the time. Her sister was 7. And I remember we were about an hour into the day, and she's on the horse, and the nurse that was with us volunteering notices that she has a nosebleed. And obviously, you know, kids pick their noses. They get nosebleeds all the time. I have 2 little boys, and they're always gushing blood from their heads, their noses, somewhere. But for Kelly, this was serious because she was going through chemo at the time. She was in active treatment, and actually, based on where she was in treatment, it was really risky for her to even be there. Her mom wanted her there so badly that she ended up sort of sending her when her platelets were low. The nurse that was working with us noticed her nosebleed and said she needs to get off the horse right now and go to the hospital. So she did, and this was her normal. I mean, it was interesting because I remember when we alerted the riding instructor that she had to get off the horse, she and her sister got right off the horse. They did not put up a fight at all. And, you know, if you're telling a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, it's time to get off of a horse or have fun. If you all have had children or worked with children, you know that when they're having fun, sometimes that train is hard to slow down. But for these girls, this was their reality. They know what it's like when somebody says, you have to do this is serious. And it was. She had to go to the hospital. She had to get a blood transfusion that day. And once again, cancer is coming in between this family's, you know, attempt at normalcy. And I just remember this happening and just thinking, we have got to figure this out. This isn't working because we cannot plan these days and have these kids come who are in such critical states and not be able to serve them in this way. So, I mean, not that I thought we should pull the plug on the program at all, but I just knew a solution had to happen. And I kept in touch with the mom and learned that Kelly was in a more stable place that October. And I called on my friend Ashley, who had a truck, and my other friend Madison had a trailer, and our other friend had a horse that was like, we think he was deaf, and he was old. He was the perfect horse to do this job. And we loaded him up in the trailer, and we drove to Farmington Hills, right on Halstead and 12 Mile here in the subdivision, and we brought the horse right to the house, and we took the horse out of the trailer, and we knocked on the door, and the girls, thankfully he was deaf, I think, because they screamed. They just started screaming. They couldn't believe it. So they opened the door, and there is a horse on the doorstep. And they were so excited. And we actually gave them exactly the same program that we would have given them had they been able to come that day and stay. We brought pizza. We brought crafts. We brought games. And we took them on a ride up and down the street and around the swing set. And it was just the most incredible afternoon. And as this is happening, I just remember thinking, this is what we should be doing. Why are we asking these children to come to us? We need to be going to them. So as this is going on, I mean, it was like an epiphany. It was like, I know that this is what we're meant to do. So as this is happening, this gentleman's driving by, and he rolls down his window, and he's like, what is going on? I mean, we're in Farmington Hills in a subdivision, and he was a neighbor. And so he understood this little girl's condition and understood the family and what they were going through. And he said, what is this? And I said, well, this is Camp Casey, and this is a horsey house call. And I mean, it just like out of nowhere, you know? I just was like, that's what this is. And he said, is this what you do? Is this what you're? And I said, yeah, this is what we do. However, we can't do it all the time yet because we don't have a truck or a trailer or our own horse. These are all borrowed goods. And he handed me his card. He said, I want to talk to you. I want to hear more about this. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, this guy is going to buy us the truck and the trailer and the horse, you know, because I'm like a pathological optimist. So we had the day. It was just amazing. I remember as we were leaving, I don't know if it was Kelly or Lindsay, one of the girls, goes, you can come back anytime and you can bring any horse. It doesn't have to be this one. And I just loved it. It was just the most phenomenal feeling to know that we were doing something so good for this family, but also that this idea had happened. And so I called this gentleman up and I said, let's get together. So we got together at the gallery over in Bloomfield Hills, right on Maple and Telegraph. And we had breakfast. And I remember he saying to me, so tell me, and I had a few weeks to prepare at this point. So I had this whole plan. And by the way, I'm still like hustling and waitressing and working odd jobs. I think I was like, I just did not have like for lack of a better term, like a pot to piss in here, So I'm just hustling, trying to make this organization work. And he's asking me all of these questions and numbers and how would you do this? And I thought I had all the answers, but at one point he said, well, how much would this cost to actually do this if you wanted to do it regularly? And I said, $50,000. And again, I think Camp Casey owed like my, boyfriend at the time, $20. Like we had no money at all. And so for me to say $50,000 was almost to say like 5 million, And I remember immediately he did not react. He didn't pull out his checkbook, that's for sure. So I thought I blew it. And I thought, okay, that's it. But whatever, I'd been told no before. And my like whole philosophy in life is just throw a lot of manure against a wall and see what sticks. So I was okay with that. And I didn't really hear from him ever again. And I was like, oh, whatever. Next time I'll say 5. maybe somebody would be more generous. But months went by, and now at this point, my team, who is again made up of my best friends and my family, we're all working really hard for this Horsey House Call vision. And so we're going to raise the money to buy a truck and buy a trailer and get a horse and do this. Meanwhile, still running our one-day programs that are still having low attendance due to the children's health frailty. Months go by, and I'm at the P.O. box. Of course, we didn't have an office or any sort of infrastructure at the time. We had a little P.O. box just so that we didn't look totally fraudulent, But I'm looking through junk mail one day. I was in between, I remember, a waitressing shift. I was supposed to be in Royal Oak for my evening waitressing shift, and I quickly ran to the P.O. box. I'm looking through the junk mail and a few thank you cards, and I see an unmarked envelope, and I open it up, and it's one single check, and it's in the amount of $50,000, and I freaked out. No, not in a good way. I was like, I can't do this. I have no business. I remember thinking, because we'd been working so hard for this, and now it had just landed. It was literally in my lap. And I was like, this is terrible because I have no business owning $50,000. I don't know what to do with this. I'm late for this waitressing shift and I'm a fraud, I remember being just overwhelmed with panic because now we really had to do this. And then I'm just like looking, and it said anonymous in the memo, but the gentleman's name was up there. And his address. But I remember thinking, well, I have his address. I'm going to drive to his house and return this check. But I looked at the check, and I looked at the check. I'm just, like, observing it and just, like, could not believe it, like, just making sure it's not counterfeit or someone's playing a joke on me. And on the date, it said August 26th, and that was Casey's birthday. And I just remember being like, okay. And I was like, this is a sign. This is a sign. This is something. So I remember thinking, now we know that this is a gift, and we are going to spend this in the best possible way. We bought a truck, we bought a trailer, we got a horse, donated actually, and we hit the ground. We completed 8 Horsey House calls that season. The next season we completed 12. The season after that, we had 15, and I think it took us about 5 years to get to 30 a season, and we've been doing that ever since. So every Saturday and Sunday from June through September, Camp Casey deploys, and we go to a different child's home, and we give them a day of horse camp. We are essentially bringing horse camp to children who are too sick to go to camp. These are kids who are homebound, who are immunocompromised, and we bring this program to them. In addition to Horsey House Calls, we also have a program called Cowboy Campouts that scholarships families to go on all expense-paid horseback riding vacations. These, again, are families who would not be in a situation to plan or pay for a vacation, but really need it. They really need that time away. Lots of times it sadly becomes like a last vacation for families to have together. It's over the course of a weekend. We operate that at Boyne Highlands, which is just beautiful. And then we also have a program called Horses in the Hallway that travels to the elementary schools of the children that we serve. And we team up with Gilda's Club, which is another cancer service organization. And they provide us with a social worker who goes into the classrooms, and we read a story about empathy and how to walk with somebody through their hardships and how to be a good friend to somebody going through a hard time. I mean, a lot of these kids, you know, they don't know what cancer is. Is it contagious? Is this something that this person got because they did something to deserve it? So we're trying to educate the children. Sometimes the teachers and the administration don't quite know how to approach the subject. It's pretty uncomfortable to talk to a child who's going through cancer. What are you to say to them? And that child has so many things they want to share, and they know that their classmates and their teachers have questions, and they don't have a stage in which to get those questions answered. So we go in and we make this very comfortable for the child, and we give an age-appropriate presentation about cancer, about what it is and what it's not, and how to be a good friend to somebody going through this. And then they go to the playground, and of course there's a horse there, and the horse helps to teach this lesson as well. So each year we serve 1,600 participants in these different ways. We do this on a pretty small but mighty budget. We raise about $550,000 a year. Every penny that's raised is spent in that calendar year. We have a two-person full-time team, including myself, and then 2 part-time employees that work with us, and we have over 500 volunteers that make what we do possible. So as I'm starting to think about, well, first of all, reading just today's service and talking about compassion and how we can be better, how do we play a role in making this world a better place, you know, especially during these times where the world really is in need of repair. Sometimes it feels like, these problems are so big, I can't even begin to solve them, so why try? But the truth is that if you can get involved on a smaller level with an organization, whether it's Camp Casey or another organization locally, that is just the very best way that you could play a part in repairing the world and being the change that you want to see in the world. There are several ways that I would like to encourage you all to get involved in Camp Casey if you should be interested. You don't have to be horse savvy at all. You don't have to be even like a Mary Poppins who loves kids very much. We have a job for everybody. But at each Horsey House Call, we require 5 volunteers. And like I said, we deploy every Saturday and Sunday from June through September. So our season is will commence in a few weeks, and we need a lot of boots on the ground to make that happen. It's very easy to volunteer with us. You simply have to sign up. I left a few cards in the front with a QR code. My phone number is also there, and my email address if you'd like to reach out to me. But it's very easy. Once you go through with the application process, which it's a 1-page application, we do run a background check, so we joke that, about like outlaws and cowboys, but we can't have real outlaws with us. So as long as you can pass a background check, you can have reliable transportation, then you can get into our system, and we will alert you whenever and wherever there's a Horsey House Call. And if it is convenient to you, and if it's in a location or on a day that works with your schedule, you simply sign up, show up, and then we put you to work either helping with crafts, handing out pizza, setting up the games stations, or walking alongside the horse. So there's a job for everyone, or being the photographer. We always need somebody to take photos, which we then put in a little thumb drive and give to the parents, so the parents can actually be in the photos and not have to be the ones taking the pictures. We're always looking for help in that way. In addition to volunteer help support, we always need donations, of course, and contributions. Anything big or small really helps us with the program's expenses. Horses, of course, are very expensive, as you might know, and we're hauling them around in big trucks that require a lot of gas, so things like that are what make our programs pretty pricey. Our programs are all 100% free to the children and the families that we serve, but that doesn't mean it doesn't cost us a lot to run them. So we're always looking for gifts. And then the supplies that you've been able to leverage, my goodness, just from Audrey leading up the supply drive, we are getting started on in such a great way for this season. The Lysol wipes and garbage bags and paints, and I mean, you wouldn't believe how quickly we go through this stuff. So we are in a really, really great spot because of this temple. So I would just wish to thank you all for all of that. And then lastly, if you know of a family that can benefit from what we do, please tell them about us. In fact, spread the word about Camp Casey, because we're not, the Red Cross or Make-A-Wish Foundation. We're 22 years old, and we're very proud of the work that we're able to do, but we're yet to be a household name, and there are privacy laws, of course, in the hospitals that prohibit us from directly making contact with the families that can benefit from our services. So we rely so heavily on word of mouth for people to know about what we do. During COVID, our organization has always served kids with cancer and sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is another rare blood disorder that's treated very similarly to cancer. The kids who are on the cancer floor being treated are all sharing the floor with the sickle cell patients. So we've always been committed to serving those two ailments. When COVID happened, we were getting calls from social workers saying, I have a patient who was set to go on his Make-A-Wish trip to Disney World. He has, a heart condition, for example, that is terminal, and he's not going to be alive to see the end of this pandemic. Can you please serve him? Because we were able to. During the pandemic, we continued to deploy because we go to them, we were outside, we masked up, we made some changes to the program in terms of how many volunteers could participate in things, but other than that, things didn't really change for us. We were able to accommodate these children who were not able to be served through other wish-granting organizations. And because it went so well, and because we really loved that we were able to make that impact, we were able to open our parameters to other children with life-threatening illnesses. So we serve kids with cancer, sickle cell disease, and then other life-threatening illnesses. If you happen to know of a family who is going through the challenges of having a sick child who has a life-threatening illness, please tell them about Camp Casey or nominate them. We would love to serve them. So at this time, I would just like to open up if anybody has questions about our organization or, oh, you know what? It was kind of a slideshow, but yeah, you can play that. Yeah, these are just some pictures and some slides that sort of showcase what we do. And actually, this can play if anybody has any questions for me. Yeah. So we travel within 1 hour of Detroit and 1 hour of White Lake. That's where our horses are kept. So something that is a little bit unusual about how we operate is that, well, we used to have our own horse. We had that one horse that was donated, Mo, when we first started. There was Casey. But Mo, when he could do 8 horsey house calls, he couldn't do 30. It was too much for one horse. So we ended up, and we didn't want to have 10 horses because it's very expensive. So we ended up figuring out how to lease horses for the day instead of having our own. So now we have partnerships with 2 incredible organizations, both nonprofit organizations. One is a therapeutic riding center in White Lake called Stars Equestrian, and one is called Buffalo Soldiers Heritage Association, which is in Rouge Park. And both organizations allow us to lease their horses, and so we deploy from both locations. If a family reaches out to us and is looking for our services, but maybe lives in the UP or lives outside of our 1 hour radius, we will then send them to the Cowboy Camp Out overnight retreat. So we never say no. There's a program for everybody, but if you are in Wayne, Oakland County, or Macomb, Washtenaw, we can accommodate with horsey house calls. So yeah, these are some this is Horses in the Hallway. This is us. This is also pretty neat. As part of the Horses in the Hallway program, we also team up with an organization called Fleece and Thank You, and there's so much collaboration. I mean, talk about like the different values that we talk about a lot in Temple and how they're incorporated in this kind of work. We collaborate and we create our own community that allows us to then encourage service and volunteerism with the children that we're reaching in the schools. So after the presentation that they're getting about cancer and about empathy and being a good friend to the child, their classmate, they go to the playground where they get to interact with the horse, and there's an empathy lesson related to the horse. But then they also make blankets for children in the hospital through Fleece and Thank You's contribution. So we are just so proud of that collaboration with Fleece and Thank You, with Gilda's Club and Buffalo Soldiers. Yep. Yes, right on 11 in Orchard. Yes. Yes, and you helped us. Yes, thank you. You do look very familiar to me. You and Tom Neal, right? Yes. Oh, that is so great. Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful. Yes, you guys helped us obtain our second trailer, actually. So now we have 2 trucks and 2 trailers because we are deploying from both White Lake and Detroit in different. Sometimes we're out in 2 different locations at the same time, which is pretty spectacular, and we were able to do that because of the Optimist Club. Oh. Well, thank you so much. This is wonderful. Talk about a full circle moment here, you know? I love that. And this has been such a wonderful community to be a part of. I mean, everybody, that's the thing, is like there are so many, obviously, hard things going on in the world. And if you look at your social media feed for too long, you can really get down, you know? But that's where I do believe that if we can make an impact, even in a small way. You know, I'm very proud that we reach 1,600 of our participants every year, but that's just a small number compared to how much hardship there is out there. But just by having a little bit of impact, that has given me a sense of purpose and meaning, and the volunteers that work with us, Casey's family, people like you who are survivors who understand firsthand what it's like to go through cancer and how it can just rip every aspect of your life apart. I just think that it is very important to do what you can, help where you can. Everybody has something that they can give. And I so appreciate you all hearing my story today. I encourage you all to get involved. And I just am so grateful to be a part of this temple and this community that focuses on giving back, helping others, and being the change that we want to see in the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Grandma.
Thank you for the work you do.
I'm bringing a horse here.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait. You got any more?
Those are the only horse tunes that I can think of.
Well, the first one was a classical number you may not know. It was called the William Tell Overture.
Oh, is it? Really?
I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I don't. No, I haven't. No.
It's classical music.
Is it
not
classical?
schoolhouse.
Yeah, right, yeah.
All right, we're going to conclude. Thank you again, Molly. Thank you to Lori and to Michael. He's going to be here shortly. All right, we'll find out. Hopefully you didn't miss his plane. And happy birthday, Tom. And will join us for the Onei Shabbat. Adon Olam,
Adon Olam hu shir Adam Ohev Chaim B'Haolam Kolo Ole B'Shir Shalom Uva'adam Nitzach Halom. Before our time the world began, and from our dawn our story ran. No hand unseen directs our way. We make our choices day by day. Through nature's law and life's design, we live the values we define. Through heart and mind, in joy and pain, we build the wisdom that we gain. Adon Olam, the song are we, our world steered by humanity. Love of life, stir songs of peace. Within us all such dreams increase. Adon Olam hu shir Adam Ohev Chaim Olam Kolo Ole B'Shir Shalom Uva'adam Nimtzach Halom.